Good morning. My name is Jack Arnston from the Priton Group, and on behalf of Fujitsu, Upland Filebound, and American Equity, I'd like to welcome you to our webinar. We're excited to have you with us. We have a lot of information packed into the next half an hour. We'll begin by talking about how the pandemic has changed our organizations. We'll discuss how the use of desktop scanners is changing due to COVID-19. We'll follow that up with how organizations are using cloud-based document management solutions to connect their remote work groups to critical documents and information. And we'll finish up with a real-world use case on how American Equity has remained productive within their accounts payable group while working from home during the pandemic. Just a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. First, we'll be recording this webinar and we'll send you a link afterwards so that you can review and possibly share the information with others. Second, you'll be muted during the webinar, but we invite you to ask questions through the chat box that's located in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. So, let's get started. Joining me today is Mitch McCarthy, Partner Account Manager with Upland Filebound, Tanya Ruden, Accounting Manager with American Equity Investment Life Insurance Company, and Rick Young, National Account Manager with Fujitsu Computer Products of America. You know, it seems like since the beginning of time, employees would leave their home each day and drive to the office. Then along came COVID-19, and many of us were forced to work from our homes. Now, as restrictions lift, we need to find a balance in safety, productivity, and profits. I thought I would share some statistics with you that are from a survey that was conducted last month by Robert Half and Associates. As a result of COVID-19 pandemic, 77% of employees surveyed are now currently working from their home. 63% now realize that their job is doable from outside of the office. 60% say that their work-life balance has improved without a commute. 43% are more comfortable using technology. And 20% report stronger relationships with other employees. They also asked workers what measures they would like their companies to take as a result of COVID-19. The responses included a tie at 79% for allowing employees to work from home more frequently and having better cleaning protocols within the office. 70% talked about holding fewer in-person meetings and trainings. 55% said staggering employee work schedules. 52% requiring employees to wear masks, and 46% changing the layout of the office itself. And as we're now beginning the transition to the new normal and workers returning to the office, they asked about personal space. 72% will rethink shaking hands with business contacts. 61% anticipate spending less time in common areas of the office. 59% will reconsider attending in-person business events. And 56% worry about being in close proximity to others within the office. With that in mind, we need to reevaluate our office environments to remain productive and provide assurances to our workers that we're taking all the necessary precautions to provide them with a safe working environment. So, with the new normal and how we adapt to it, I thought I'd share some additional information. Now, you may have already seen these in the news, but here's a few examples of how some companies are responding. McDonald's has issued their Dine-In Reopening Playbook to franchisees. It's a 56-page manual that includes instructions such as cleaning the digital kiosks each time a customer orders, placing close signs on certain tables to promote social distancing, and scrubbing the bathrooms every half hour. On May 12th, Twitter announced that staff can continue to work from home permanently. And Accenture has gone a step further to say that we're not entering a new normal, but rather a never normal, in which to outmaneuver uncertainty, reopening also requires a program of reinvention. This presents an opportunity and a need for many companies to build on the competencies that they wish they had invested in before. So, as we enter the never normal, I want to hand it over to Rick Young from Fujitsu.
Thank you, Jack. Hey, good morning, everybody. Rick Young, National Account Manager for Fujitsu Document Scanner Group. And what I wanted to talk about is a new focused product that is part of that, entering that never normal, the 7300NX. Next slide. So some scanning options. Traditional scanning has been pretty much one scanner to one computer off to the destination. But with shared scanning or networking scanning, like the 7300NX, you have the capability to allow multiple users to scan documents to multiple destinations or even to the cloud. This is essentially PC-less type of scanning. You can scan documents to departments, SharePoint, file server, business applications, email, and even to that of the cloud. Next slide. So little speeds and feeds on the unit. As I mentioned before, this is PC-less type of scanning. So obviously no PC required, multiple authentication capability. It is a networkable document scanner. It has wireless capability, 5 gig Wi-Fi. It's the only one currently on the market that has that capability. You also can tether this with Ethernet. And like all FI series document scanners from Fujitsu, it comes with PaperStream IP, Twain and ISIS drivers to allow you to work with varied capture and back-end ISV softwares that are on the marketplace. It is 60 pages a minute, 80 pages in the ADF, and will scan letter, legal, and long page. So this is a very strong technology built off of the award-winning 7160. Think of that one as the 7160 on steroids for network type scanning. Next slide. Mentioned authentication. This simplifies speeds and feeds for multiple authentication. You have to move the slides forward, Jack. With regards to capability to do the authentication, it can be done through an NFC card, user passcode, employee numbers, job codes, what have you. So once authentication is completed, we'll see on the next slide, job codes are brought up. This allows the users to see only their specific workflows. This way, documents are scanned to specific destinations, business applications, the cloud, email, servers, and such. Next slide. So with PaperStream IP, this comes right out of the box for dynamic image cleanup. PaperStream IP essentially looks at each page and changes the settings on the fly for better images pretty much out of the box. As you can see here, there's a warranty registration card. That's the original. The next one is the same card with no image correction. And the last one is with PaperStream IP. As you can compare the original with the image correction through a PaperStream IP, you can see that it's much more crisper than that of the original. This is going to be so important to you as an end user when you're scanning documents that are key essential for your business. Next slide. I hand it over to Mike McCarthy from Upland. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. And so today I just want to talk to you a little bit about digital transformation and secure document lifecycle automation. And so next slide, Jack. Within Upland, the offering we tend to provide is what we call our document workflow cloud. What that is it's a comprehensive end-to-end system where we apply appropriate levels of security to ensure that only the correct people are seeing the images as they come in. And one of the benefits of the document workflow cloud is, unlike some other systems, we're a much more agile solution. It's very easy to configure and set up, but we also have a lot of feature functionality and powerful tools to allow you to automate a number of your processes as you're bringing these documents into your system. And so what I want to talk to you about now is just the secure document lifecycle automation. So what we mean by that is basically, we don't consider this necessarily a product, it's more of a journey. It's a journey we take our customers through in order to set up the system so that you can have some of the virtual access that everyone's looking for right now. So when you think of the life cycle of a document from the first touch to the final storage, it starts with the capture. And Rick touched on that a little bit. And so what we mean by that, it's the scanning or the digital upload of your images as they come into the system. And then again, once you capture the document and ingest it, there are a lot of other things that need to happen. You may need to compress it, you may need to extract it, you may need to clean up the image as we just showed on the previous slide. And all that's done at this capture level, and then so we can convert, classify, and find that data. And then we then upload it into the business process and workflow. And so this is not a one-way of cycling documents. They could be going back and forth between these two workflow components. And we provide a variety of elements of automation to have those things get done. So you may need to, it's truly a continuum. And we've also built this because we knew it was imperative to have three different elements to this. The first is analytics, and we'll touch on this a little bit deeper in a couple slides. The second is security services. So we need to make sure that, again, that appropriate level of security is applied at the document and file level to make sure that only the appropriate people are seeing what we want them to see. And then, of course, integration. So when we ultimately process and distribute these documents, there might be a variety places you want to distribute them to, whether it be file bound or another line of business application. But what we really want is your SDLA to be a singular view, kind of like a singular pane of glass that handles all the different document processing. Next slide, Jack. So when looking at digital confirmation and when we're experiencing these new waves tied to digital transformation, and if we weren't agile, we wouldn't be able to respond to a number of our clients as we have in this particular environment. So we're not just hearing this in the media, but we're hearing it from other customers that are telling us these things that we've done in the past, and now it's helping them in this transition and helping them get through this particular pandemic. So what this means is, on the other side, there were some folks who maybe delayed the digital transformation pursuit and were caught a little flat-footed. And so what we've been able to do is get with some of our clients and help them get some of these things in place to help them stay afloat. So the first quote you're looking at here, talking about Upland, was with a law firm we were working with. They were very paper-based, did not have a lot of digital transformation in place. They had a serious problem where they just needed their attorneys to get their mail. They had no component in place to do that. We were able to come in and stand up a scanning operation and document distribution to make sure that all the appropriate people were just getting their mail. So just some simple, quick, agile things we've done as far as that goes. The second quote, I'll just highlight very briefly. This is again in the AP space. This is an example of someone who had embraced digital transformation prior to the pandemic, and they were using it for their AP. And basically, one day they were, as many of us found, one day we're in the office, the next day they were at home. And this particular organization didn't miss a beat. They've not seen any reduction in production from their team. Everyone was able to access everything they needed virtually and move forward. So we've kind of seen that second wave of the pandemic and the digital transformation. But of course, we know this isn't going to be the last disaster we face, and we know it's imperative to get people on this digital transformation bandwagon as this happens again. So we really are seeing or anticipate rather, a second wave of focus on this sort of transformation. So next, I just want to touch on a couple things specific to FileBound, and I just want to talk a little bit about how we can automate your business. So some of the key use cases, obviously, we were going to touch on accounts payable a great deal today, but there's also a variety of areas that you can leverage this, whether it's contracts management, HR, and so on. And really the highlights of the tool are to improve your business efficiency. Obviously, you can connect with employees, empowering them to be more productive. Again, in this particular time, the virtual workforce is huge. And so it allows them to virtually from home have seamless communication, seamless approval processes without having to do any of the shuffling of the paper, things you might typically see in a typical office. And then adaptive analytics. So we can analyze all this data, we can predict invoicing, identify bottlenecks, and just ultimately optimize your knowledge of how you're processing your work. And then lastly, compliance. We touched on the security a great deal. Whether it's an audit or just need to make sure you're hitting all your appropriate security regulations, we have security in place that can assist you with that. And then lastly, I just want to touch on a few things, just the core capabilities. Again, highlighting we're empowering users, those automated processes, and again, very easily user-friendly tool to configure. Again, and effortlessly store the information as it comes in, wherever we need to distribute that to. And really very easy to access, very easy to find whatever information it is you're looking for. And then again, just reducing the time, making everyone more productive, and again, allowing that virtual workforce to access whatever they need.
Thanks, Mitch. We've got Tanya Ruden joining us next from American Equity. So Tanya?
Thanks, Jack. As Jack said, my name is Tanya Ruden. I'm an accounting manager at American Equity Life Insurance Company. Just to give you a little background, what type of company we are, we're a publicly traded insurance company. We focus primarily on selling annuities. That's our primary product. We have about $70 billion in assets, and we have about 650 employees, primarily located in West Des Moines, Iowa. We have 2 locations there, one, the building you see in the picture, and then another location for some of our investment and IT folks. We do have employees spread out, though, throughout the 50 United States, primarily selling our products with the broker-dealers. We're a pretty young company, only about 25 years old, and I started with the company 5 years ago, and we had 500 employees. So we've grown pretty significantly in the last 5 years in not only staff, but in our assets and products sold. We do commit to living and working in our community. We support a lot of not-for-profits here in the metro area. We always pick a different one every quarter, and you see us sponsoring the Heart Walk and the Breast Cancer Walk and all of those things. And I think the key thing that's on this slide is it says it's all about the people, and that will totally transition into what we start to talk about in relation to COVID-19 and how American Equity looks today compared to what it looked like March 1st. March 1st, we had primarily most all of our employees work full-time in the office and in our brick and mortar locations. We're a little higher than what Jack showed in his first slide. We went to 93% work from home. And with that transition, we had no problems maintaining our accounts payable process. I will tell you that of the 7% that remain in the office, part of those do support our payables process just because logistically they have to. Obviously, our mail comes into our company and everything. If we receive any payables invoices, they're scanned there. Obviously, because we're a life insurance company, primarily a lot of our policyholder requests and things come via mail as well in the paper. So we do have people in the office supporting this from that perspective and being able to do our mail. But for any payable vendors that sent us invoices via PDF or via email, those obviously were of no issue in transition to the COVID-19 work from home. We're a life insurance company, so primarily our accounts payable is not like purchasing widgets to make a different kind of widget. We have a lot of our invoices are for expenses that we pay, overhead expenses or management service agreements or advertising, those kind of things. But just to give you a perspective, we run about $140 million of operating expenses through FileBound on a yearly basis. And we also run some annuity payments as well through another workflow that we've set up in our FileBound using their forms system in order to pay annuitants that need payments more quickly or in a different vein than our everyday cycle through our underlying subsystem. We have one staff primarily who oversees our payable process. Invoices come in, they're scanned as I stated at the beginning, or PDFs are brought in. The OCR reads as much as it can, and then we have one payables person that routes our invoices through our approval process. I personally think American Equity, we're a little complicated in our approval process. We currently have about 20 departments that are approved to receive invoices and approve them. And we have a multi-tiered level approval process where different managers have different approval and spend levels. And if it's beyond their level, then it goes above them accordingly. Everything then routes back to accounting for us to ensure that the coding and the department level expenses are coded appropriately for our reporting and analytics before it is generated for payment. We, again, print all of our own checks on site. So FileBound extracts an export file for us that we use to import into our check printing software. And currently, we print bills 2 days a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, and everything is just generated automatically, and items happen appropriately on those days. Prior to implementing FileBound, we had a pretty disorganized and chaotic system. Everything was in paper. Everything was routed to the payables department. You never knew if you were missing an invoice, where it was, whose desk it might be on, what needed payment. And if somebody found something buried on their desk that needed paid that day, we would expedite and drop everything to make sure that we could make terms and we could try to get that payment out the door appropriately. Under today's environment, using FileBound, we are able to meet terms accordingly. We have the system set up that things will escalate or move along if people haven't approved them timely, so that we can ensure we're meeting net 10 I'm sorry, not net 10, but net 30, and if we get a discount, 10 days, to make sure that we can manage all of that accordingly. And again, with the COVID-19 and work from home, that's all been very, very seamless, because all of our approvers are everywhere in their home locations. They can still approve things and do everything electronically just the way that we had. So our payables, we haven't missed a beat in making payments, meeting the terms as expected by vendors, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe just to touch quickly on, we not only use FileBound for our payables process, we also use it, as I stated, for some annuity payments through the form system, where we can complete those through a workflow. It's much simpler that way. We also use it for storage on some of our investment portfolio information, and we also use it to store accounting SOX information that we need to store to be able to keep the proof for auditors, and we have filing cabinets, et cetera, set up appropriately for that. So that's probably my prepared remarks, Jack, unless I missed something that you wanted me to touch on.
No, I think that sounds great.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Tanya. We appreciate that. So just a couple of things here. First off, I want to thank again Rick, Tanya, and Mitch for joining us. And if you have any questions about anything that you've heard, feel free to reach out to me. My information's on the screen here. Also, if you have any questions, feel free through the chat area to go ahead and enter those. We do have a couple that have come in, and this first one, I think, Tanya's for you. It says, what are the changes that you plan to make to your workflow when your staff returns to working to your offices or from your offices?
I guess my thought is we really don't intend to make much change as people return to the office, because from the workflow and all of the things perspective, it was the same when we were in the office versus out of the office. So from return to, I say new normal, but different normal, I don't anticipate us changing much in our payables process.
Okay, thanks. Here's another one for you, Tanya. Is there something you would have done differently when you originally installed your system now that you've had it for a couple of years?
When I think about that question, there's two key things that come to mind. The first one is, when we implemented, I thought we did a really great job documenting and understanding how our payables flow process worked. And again, it was kind of chaotic. So it was even hard to put that workflow together and to think about and make sure that we were capturing everyone's concerns with spending authority and how things were doing. And we really tried to accommodate every department everyone was doing things so differently. If I were to step back and do it again, or if I think about doing a deep dive, we've been with FileBound since 2016. I really do think about, we need to maybe reevaluate that workflow. I think we made it more complicated than we needed to. And now that we've been in this place, this electronic approval place for a while, do we have some things where we could say, is this necessary, or are our auditors or our senior leaders okay with changing some of these spend limits or potentially making things a little bit more unified? So that's probably one thing as I think back, if I were to change. I apologize, my computer is. The second thing that I think of as a potential change would be keeping up on our templates and our OCR technology. That was in a department different than mine because our scanners are housed with our annuity department. And we did not do a great job keeping up on new vendors and templates and really using the technology that we have available to the best of its ability. So I think if I were to go back, or again, something we're looking at 5 years later, is really doing a much better job using that OCR technology and taking a lot of any data input or data imperfections that we have and getting that to be done by the computer. Some of what was shown in the one slide with the warranty card, we have that problem where things come across as gray or they're harder to read. And I think the technology today is much better and we can do a better job capturing where the invoice amounts are, especially as we enter into new agreements with new vendors. We are starting to require that they send us their invoices in PDF, which then gives us even that better option of it being able to use the technology better than we can from a scanned copy.
Great, thank you. Here's another one for you as well. It says, for someone looking to deploy a system like this, what type of advice could you give me?
Great question. A lot of the work I do is project work, and this is no reflection on the Priton group or FileBound, but number one, it always is going to take longer than you think it's going to. And it's not necessarily, again, a reflection on your vendors. For us, it was a lot of reflection on, as I stated, we had 20 departments, and every department thought they were unique or special in how they approved their invoices or how they did things. And trying to find that commonality of we can all fit under one policy and one procedure, and we can all become united on that front, and maybe setting a policy if you don't currently have one. If you currently have a lot of those things in place and you have a great system and process, then going electronic like this is not a big or heavy burden. But I think for us, that was the one thing, is it just seems like things take longer than you think they will when you implement something. But again, that's not a reflection, I don't think, of anyone other than ourselves, and trying to take something that was pretty chaotic and make it so much better.
I got another question, and I think, Rick, this one's geared towards you. It says, have you seen any changes in the way that people are approaching scanning since COVID-19?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. We're seeing, as mentioned earlier, work from home. So we are starting to see more and more organizations look at work from home, and there will be a need for scanning. So there is probably a use of more of the smaller desktop type scanners that we have, like our IX 1500 or 800R. But we're also starting to see organizations that are slowly going back to the office are looking for ways to do more with less, increase productivity. So they are starting to look at units like the 7300NX because of the capabilities to utilize that system without a PC, so they can go with multiple users, multiple destinations. So it's really going to be based on each end user corporation's requirements and also the vertical market that they're in, because obviously healthcare is going to be more hands-on as of an environment versus, say, financial services. We're also finding state and local is getting back to more of a hands-on types of environments as well. So there is a need there for more robust types of scanning.
Perfect, thanks. That's what we have right now for questions. If any others come in, I'll be happy to answer those on the side. We're right at the end of our half hour, so we do want to thank everyone for joining us this morning. We hope that you got something out of the half an hour, and hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.